Kaya na umarangkada itong Blue Ribbon Committee. Hindi ako magkakamali sa pagdinig ito sa mga expired na mga vaccine, no? Kasi nandito si Secretary Duque, si Galvez, at si Bergere. So, si Bergere kasi siya naman ngayon yung ano eh. So, ang ano lang dito ay talagang itong si Senador Amy Marcos ay mayroon kasing sinabi billion peso yung na-expired na vaccine, mga kababayan. So, hindi ka ba dyan nalulungkot, di ba? Na ang bayan bansa natin ay nagkalubog-lubog sa utang. Tapos ay mabalitaan nyo ay napakaraming na-expired na mga na-expired na mga na vaccine. So, ito mahaba itong hearing kasi. So, simulan na natin, maiksi lang muna. Ano natin, itong part ng pagtatanong ni Senador Amy Marcos, yung nagkaroon siya kasi ng konting opening statement dito. So, let's go.
For the part of this representation. Firstly, with regard to COA, given that the COA Commissioner has repeatedly stated in this chamber that the COA is not bound by NDAs, so that the resident auditor will send the demand letter to the DOH. So we are all aware of this statement coming from COA, and I think it's in the interest of the Senate to acquire copies of the contracts containing said NDAs. Secondly, with regard to the DOH, the news has repeatedly reported that a wastage of at least 57 million doses has been tallied. Similarly, on December 7, I think the Secretary herself has estimated that the current vaccine wastage costs approximately 22 billion. How much of this was actually wasted, coming from General Galvez, and perhaps since we have the honor of Secretary Dominguez's presence, how much of all that was borrowed? And finally, may I know if the DOH has submitted a report or any closure rendering or accounting to the House of Representatives or the Senate as to the implementation of the vaccination program required under Section 13 of RA 11525. We would be keen to acquire copies of said reports, even if they were given partially or in sequence. Thank you. That will be all, Mr. Chair.
At a major disadvantage, as rich nation, we're able to buy as much 6 times their actual population. The Philippine government had moved fast, and our main goal was to save lives. And we would like to thank the Congress and the Senate for the passing of the Republic Act number 11525, or the COVID-19 Vaccination Program Act of 2021. It was enacted by Congress and Senate.
So, skip ko na itong privilege, kumbaga yung opening statement. Kumbaga, nagkaroon ng opening statement kasi itong si mo ko, ano bang tawag nito sa ginawa ni Galvez. So, pupunta ako sa main kasi sa ano ni ito dito siguro. Punta tayo dito.
But therefore not audit.
Sir, Madam, it's not in our statement that
Sure,
the COA cannot audit. It is only during the hearing that we said that we cannot disclose the contract. It is only during the public hearing with the Senate and the Congress that we cannot disclose the CDA that we have signed.
Wow, hindi pala pwede ipakita yung kanilang kontrata. Wow, ibang klase.
Not with the COA.
It may be my own failure of memory of the language, but I seem to recall otherwise. But Mr. Chair, perhaps at this juncture we can inquire from the COA why said contracts were never audited.
We acknowledge the interjection by Senator Marcos. So abruptly, we'll just ask a quick response from Commission on Audit, and then we'll allow Secretary Galvez to continue. Yes or no lang?
Sir, Madam, Your Honors, the contracts or the agreements were not submitted to us. So that part we were not able to audit, but we were able to audit the other parts of the project.
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair, and perhaps since Secretary Duque is here, May I quote the statement on record by the COA head, Cordova, when he faced the Commission on Appointments. The Department of Health po at that time, si Secretary Duque, wrote to us stating they will not be able to provide these documents because they have an NDA or non-closure agreement with the suppliers.
Wow, baklase.
So perhaps Secretary Duque can
Secretary Duque can answer, but
Pangit ng mic nila, nag-iiko.
later we will allow Secretary Galvez to continue his statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Madam Senator Amy. Thank you for inviting us to this hearing. And to respond, I would like to state for the record that, in fact, on November 16, 2021, very much the DOH under my watch sent a letter to then Chairman Michael Aguinaldo requesting that a special audit be made, and that the special audit consists of financial and compliance audits of our vaccine-related procurements funded through the World Bank, ADB, and AIIB. And unknown to that, in fact, we also requested the good chairperson then to also do an end-to-end performance audit of the entire national deployment and vaccination plan on COVID-19 vaccines. And I do have all the annexes, Mr. Chairman, to present, and perhaps for the DOH to officially relay to the Secretariat all the letters that we have written. In fact, truth to tell, we have had a total of 14 letters and correspondences that covers ranging from request for special audit, request for performance audit, proposed timelines, and deadlines for the completion and reporting out of the audit report by COA, and all reference that will underpin the audit by COA. So, Your Honor,
Make his introduction.
the audit by COA. So, Your Honor, Mr. Chairman, we have all the documents and annexes that we would gladly relay through the Department of Health, that is, of course, officially to the SBRC Secretariat. So,
Thank you,
contrary to
Secretary
this
Duque,
report,
you will have your time later
thank you.
on. We'll
Thank you
allow-
very much, Mr. Chairman.
for
Yun lang po,
purposes of
Mr. Chairman.
orderliness here, we'll allow Secretary Galvez to proceed. We acknowledge the presence of Senator Jingo Estrada as well.
Ito rin. Ito rin yung maganda rin itong bira ni Senador Jingo Estrada dito eh. Maganda rin yung bira niya dito. Puro expired kasi yung mga ano dito eh. Yung nire-raise nila. At saka malupit pala, no? Hindi mo pala pwede makita kung sino yung mga kumbaga hindi pala ma-disclose, no? Yung kontrata ng pinagbibilhan mo ng vaccine. Ibang klase yan. So, nasaan yung transparent dyan? Hindi mo makita. Alam mo, bibili ka ng kalabaw doon, hindi mo alam kung sino palang binilan mo. Ibang klase. Di ba? Yung sa vaccine. Grabe nga sikreto. Lupit.
Tuloy mo lang, Secretary Galvez, how many more minutes, and then the sequence would be after you, Secretary Berhere.
We applied for considering that also during our negotiation, it is stipulated in there. The manufacturers will abide with the certain procedures with the contracts.
Galvez. Senator Estrada, you have the floor for your opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Senator Amy. My challenge to the Department of Health is to reduce unnecessary vaccine wastage. Pangalagaan po natin ang kaban ng bayan at siguraduhin na hindi ito nasasayang. Rest assured that I am fully committed to helping the committee investigate and get to the bottom of this issue of public interest while safeguarding the rights of all concerned. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Wow, lupit ng opening statement mo, sir. Ibang klase. Ano, saan kayo si Amy Marcos? Hanapin ko dito si Amy Marcos eh. Yun lang pala yung birada ni Senator Amy Marcos. So mamaya, marami pang excited dito eh.
Thank you for inviting me to this morning's proceedings
Ito,
and
si
for the
ano pala
opportunity
ito?
to clarify matters. Related
Isa pa to eh.
Watch has never refused to subject the vaccine agreements to audit. In fact, as early as June 2021, in a hearing also before this august chamber, with the Senate's instructions, while also on, let me emphasize that we have never indicated that the vaccine agreements are exempt from audit. Our vaccine procurements were largely financed by official development assistance from our reputable multilateral development partners, and the related loan agreements mandate the audit of the supply agreements precisely to ensure that these are corruption-free. In fact, disclosures pursuant to audit requirements are enshrined in the supply agreements. Under our Constitution, the COA has the jurisdiction to audit all government accounts. These vaccine supply agreements are no exception. While the details could not be publicly divulged in keeping with our confidentiality obligations, these may be duly audited in compliance with government procedures. We hope that we were able to make this position clear to this honorable body. Thank you very much.
So yan, yun ang maiksing ano. So maghanap na naman tayo dito. Ito naman ang mga tanong. So kasama pala ditong si Amy Marcos, isa sa mga mag-iimbestiga dito kasi gusto nilang hanapin. Gusto nilang makita. Kasi napakarami pala yung na-expired na mga vaccine dito. So sabi naman ni Galvez, free corruption. Ibig sabihin wala daw corruption sa nangyaring bilihan ng vaccine. No? Sa mga PPA na di-discover, no? Naman matindi na nasabon yung sa hearing nakaraan na Blue Ribbon Committee din, no? Nagano doon. O saan niya medyo na-discarrel itong nahuli itong sila ni ni Lao na sila yung nagpapaikot-ikot lamang. Tapos ito namang ito ngayon ay mas matindi pala itong vaccine dahil nga hindi mo pala malaman, no? Medyo sekreto pero sabi naman ni Galvez ay ayan, dandahan nang lumalabas din, no? Na ang problema dito, hindi na puro napakaraming expired. Dapat managot sila dito. Una, bakit dapat sila managot? Yan ang gamot na yan na-expired din naman. Una, hala ng hala kasi sila Alam niyo, sa kapabayaan nila, sobrang tuliro, no? Hindi nag-iisip. Yun, minsan na-expired. Imagine mo, buti sana kung libo-libo lang na-expired. Sa pagkakaalam ko ay halos bilyon yung na-expired na pera ng taong bayan na nasasayang lamang. Let's go, panoorin natin. Dagdagan pa natin ito.
Then COA.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chair, and to our honorable senators present this morning. First, we'd like to say that the DOH is but one of the many government agencies that handled the COVID-19 vaccine portfolio.
Si Bergeri pala itong nagsasalita. Akala ko sa COA. Right hand din ito ni Secretary Duque. So let's go. Panoorin natin ito ulit ng sinasabi niya.
The COVID-19 vaccine rollout to different agencies handling different aspects based on their mandates and technical expertise.
Takot sila i-disclose. Baka makita naman mga involved naman dito sila ni Lau Di ba? Baka yun ang dito.
So in fact, the DOH doesn't have any issue with being subjected to audits for these vaccine procurements. In fact, the Department of Health requested specifically from COA for these audits, as what Secretary Duque has just mentioned. We are very much
ma'am? Can you repeat
willing.
that last line? Can you repeat that last line? I'm sorry.
Yes, yes, Honorable Chair. I stated, Mr. Chair, that we are very much willing to be subjected to audits. In fact, the Department of Health
Okay, so sabi niya dito, willing na sila na isa-subject sila sa auditing yung mga nabili nila na mga vaccine. Pero noon, hindi pwede. So ngayon medyo patapos na, medyo mahaba-haba na. Kumbaga sa lakbayin, milya-milya na yung naabot nila. Saka sila mag-start ng bilangin nyo nga kung ilan yung inapakan namin. 'Di ba? Parang ewan ko, ang klase sa ating bansa. Di ba? Ay, nako.
Specifically communicated officially to the Commission on Audit for these specific audits that can be done for our National Vaccine Deployment Program. As to the questions of the Honorable Senator Amy Marcos, first, Honorable Chair, for vaccine wastage, the bulk of the 44 million wastage, Honorable Senator, would be coming from procurements.
Is it 44 million or 57 million? Stated by Senator Marcos?
Based from our inventory, Honorable Chair, it's 44 million. The 44 million wastage, based on our
Okay.
inventories, mostly comes from the procurement of the private sector, which is around 44.82% of their procured vaccines, and coming from the local government units, which is around 33.34% of their procured vaccines. If we look at our current inventories, the national government procurement, only 2.97% out of the total number that we have procured, which is around 134 million doses that we have procured, only around 2.9 million have expired from these national government procured vaccines. The estimated amount of wastage among the national government procured vaccines corresponds only to 1.99 billion.
Wow.
If we are to equate or estimate this at 500 pesos per dose. So that is what we have as a response to the question of Honorable Senator Amy Marcos, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Secretary Vergere. So, Secretary Duque, you can incorporate your previous answers to your opening statement now.
Once again,
Lusot na ito si Doke. Magaling to si Doke. Abogado rin ata to, Attorney Doke. Magaling itong right hand. Sila din naman. Alam nga naman sila maglulutuan sila diyan, hindi sila din. Alam niyo, medyo hindi na ako mag-comment, panoorin na natin ito.
thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and your honors. I would like to state, Mr. Chairman, that the entire DOH family, both from the previous and current administrations, share the same objective of ensuring that our citizens' hard-earned taxes are well spent and fully accounted for, down to the very last centavo.
Wow,
Your
galing.
honors, the provisions on confidentiality and non-disclosure are standard clauses or agreements accompanying.
Doon pa lang ay magtaka ka na, mayroon silang batas na bawal ipakita yung procurement nila. So, tapos sasabihin niya, standard yung pera ng taong bayan, kahit yung centavos ay walang ninakaw. Goes to taong bayan kahit 5 centavos. Doon pa lang sa procurement nyo, bawal na nga ipakita So, sasabihin nyo, napakalinis at wala ni 5 na walang pera. Kumbaga, gusto niyang palabasin na ni 5 ay nawala sa pera ng taong bayan. Maniwala. Doon pa lang sa kapabayaan nyo sa na-expired yung vaccine. Dahil nga medyo grabing grabe yung nyo sa vaccine nung tira ng tera hanggang kaya lumubo yung utang natin dahil ang pinaka-number 1 kasi diyan mga kababayan sa vaccine Vaccine ang number 1 na napagpahatak diyan kaya umabot tayo ng 13 trillion pesos ngayon. So until 50 year 50-50 2050 baka hindi pa yan mabayaran ng bansang Pilipinas. So itong mga ito wala namang pakiyan dahil mayaman na mga yan. Hindi naman random yan nila dahil sa yaman. Dapat sa mga ito alam nyo na nagtatrabaho kasi sa gobyerno kahit na manguha yan, hindi mo naman kasi madiditik yan 'di ba? Kumbaga, matalino talaga ang halimbawa, hindi naman sila magnakaw ng pera na ilalagay nila sa bangko yan karamihan ng mga magnanakaw ay hindi na yan, hindi na nila i-deposit yan. Ilalagay nila yan sa bahay. Kasi pag i-deposit nila yan, makikita yan sa AMLA. Ganyan sila. Pero kung ilagay mo lang sa bahay, ilagay mo lang sa ilalim ng kama mo, ika nga, edi solve, di ba? Style ng mga ano, ay nako.
Mentioned and pointed out by former Secretary Dominguez and Secretary Galvez, they are not exempt from COA's audit jurisdiction. Thus, as I have indicated earlier, under my watch, the
Wow.
DOH had requested the COA in earnest contracts to. Your Honor, as early as October 2021, the DOH and the National Task Force have reached out to these have been
16, 2021.
Ito gusto ko tong kay.
NFTF
Wait lang, gusto ko ito pakinggan itong kay ano. Ito.
to its global suppliers in combating COVID-19. Maraming salamat po sa pagkakataon.
Ito kay Amy Marcos. Gusto ko.
Yes, Senator Marcos.
Yes, following up on the statement of the former Secretary of Health, may I hence request that the committee be provided with a copy of the letter mentioned requesting a special audit from COA dated November 16, 2021. The letter also urging an end-to-end performance audit as well as the rest of the alleged 14 pieces of correspondence urging that these contracts be subjected to audit by COA. At which also, following the
Pasensya na kayo mga kababayan. Ultimo yung signal ng ginawang live ng Senado ay lag. Mahina yung net internet.
those requests, Mr. Chair, perhaps we can derive from COA the information as to why they failed to audit, given such a barrage of letters from the DOH.
Ayan, dito magkalaman.
Senator Marcos, perhaps Secretary Duque, you can comply with said request.
As I have indicated, we have 14 correspondences covering issues ranging from the request for a special audit, a request for a comprehensive end-to-end performance audit of the national deployment and vaccination plan, and also the timelines that we proposed within which to complete the audit and the reporting of said audits. Again, all consistent with our obligation under the loan agreements entered condition. There are exemptions in each of those contracts as to when and how and what processes ought to be followed to be able to disclose the confidential information.
Sus, yun, ikaw na naman sakit naman sa tiyan. So, hindi ko maintindihan. Ganun pala yun, no? Pag bumili ka ng gamot, vaccine, nung pandemya, ay confidential pala yun. So, mahirap. Mahirap yung, nasasabihin nila yung pag bumili ka ng vaccine, naging confidential pala yung nangyari. Kaya nahihirapan ang COA. Ito nakikita natin, nahihirapan ang COA. Kaya ito ngayon nagsasalita sila ni Secretary Galvez, Secretary Dominguez, ultimo itong si Doque, at pati itong si Bergere. Kaso lang, si Bergere kasi mga kababayan, ay spokesperson lang yan. Nung panahon nata ni Doque yan, ay naging undersecretary niya lang yan eh. Kumbaga, takapagsalita niya lang yan. So, itong tatlo talaga, yung mga mote dito, in case na may makita ditong pagkakasa lang, ang problema kita naman talaga sa ating bansa. Kahit may makita pa diyang rimarimarim na nangyayari, wala din namang mangyayari, lusot na lusot, mapera eh. Nakaraang hearing yan sa Department of PhilHealth, diba? Doki, sinampahan na ng kaso, pero akwit. Galing, diba? Okay. So, let's go, panoorin natin ito kasi sasagot dito ang COA. Ba yan?
Technical,
So,
can you do something?
We are willing to submit this. The DOH is currently in possession of all of these supply agreements, and the detailed exemption clauses in those agreements as to when and how, what processes to undergo to share confidential information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your
Thank you.
honors.
And
So, yan. Ito, yung nangyari ngayon ay parang gusto na, hinihayaan na lang nila, no? Pwede na. Pwede na kayong mag-audit. Pero noon, hindi mo na. So, hindi mo maalis sa isip mo, anong nangyari? Parang, sige, lulutuin muna namin to bago kayo kakain. Parang ganun. Sige. Noong nagluluto kami, hindi nyo to makita. Confidential ito eh. Kung anong niluluto namin. Ngayon, sige, tikman nyo. Tingnan nyo na. Pwede nyo na tingnan. Kasi lutong-luto na namin eh. Sarap na. Pwede nyo na kainin. Parang ganun nangyari. So, let's go. May punta tayo sa next part. Itong medyo, sorry na, medyo jump itong atin ay sausaw sinagol. Ika nga.
we probably would have the full version of the agreement, even
Yes.
if it contains proprietary
Ang lakas ng signal
insertions there, which we are not scientists here, nor pharmaceutical, nor having pharmaceutical knowledge, so we will not be able to use that. But in terms of the duration of the CDA or NDA, price probably would be included. We are very, very interested. This committee is interested in that. The Commission on Audit perhaps can reply as to the statement given by Secretary Duque. There are dates given. The first date was November 2021, wherein they asked you for an audit. And then, if you can likewise answer my question, was there a request coming from the World Health Organization or other foreign agencies requesting for an audit? You have the floor, COA.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Your Honor.
Oh.
Apo. Good morning again, sir, Your Honor. I'd like to answer first the question on whether we have already demanded the documents from the Department of...
There are two. One is that whether you demanded.
Yes.
Second is whether they requested. And the third one is whether a foreign institution requested likewise. Please
Yes,
proceed.
We have demanded the submission of documents from
And
the
when?
DOH. The latest of which is dated December 6. But I'd like to make
December
mention
6
that
of
we have
what year?
this year, sir.
This year lang. Luto na siya, no? Kung bagang boto, lumambot na talaga.
But I'd like to mention that we have
2023.
already requested as early as 2021, and I'd like to confirm that they have submitted these documents. However, we still have to receive the not redacted documents, sir.
Naku.
And
When was the November submission made?
September, sir,
September.
the first request from us for them to submit the
But from what we heard,
agreements.
they asked for an audit November.
Yes, sir. That's the audit for the COVID projects funded by the ADB and the World Bank. And I'd like to confirm that the DOH actually requested the special audit. Yes, sir, they did, as a requisite of these two banks, the ADB and the World Bank, because it is a requirement from the loan grantee.
Secretary, I stand corrected. Delete the words World Health Organization. It should have been World Bank. Please
World
proceed.
Bank and Asian Development Bank, sir. Yes, sir.
Proceed. What happened next?
A series of communications ensued because they initially requested that the audit or the audit report be submitted June 30. However, because the people that will be involved in the audit are the very same people or auditors who are auditing or conducting the regular audit, we cannot promise them the report to be submitted by June 30. So we instead agreed to the audit if they will agree to a September deadline for the audit report. So,
Ma'am, if I may interfere,
Yes,
there are
sir.
two sources here: domestic funds as well as the foreign sourced funds. So you're now referring to the foreign.
the special audit, sir, is from the funds from the two banks.
From the two banks, because it is a requisite. It is a requisite of the foreign banks to have an audit.
Yes, sir. Because
So
the
you might as well answer the GAA sourced or special law funding given to the procurement of the vaccines, not just the foreign loans.
Yes. They specifically requested for three. There are three projects, sir, which we call the Hill one. That's the health enhancement to address and limit COVID. Dalawa yung there are two tranches. The first one is I'd like to mention the amount, sir.
Tagalog nyo lang kasi kayo. Ba't kasi pinipilit nyo mag-English? Ano bang kaharap nyo? Puro naman kayo Pinoy dyan eh. No? Hindi kayo magtatagalog. Parang mga tataas ang ihi nyo. Ano ba yan? Puro foreigner? Hindi naman foreigner yung usap nyo. Puro Pinoy. At saka ina-address nyo yung corruption dyan. Corruption dyan. Dapat maintindihan ng taong bayan. Kasi taong bayan yung ano dyan. Hindi yung puro kayo English ng English dyan. Kitang-kita naman yung English ay mahirap na, kahirap-hirap na. Ay ayaw pa rin mag Tagalog. Ito namang si Tolentino ay bakit ay no. Ano ba to? American Senate ba itong ano natin? Bakit parang bihira lang ako nakikita diyan nagsasalita ng Tagalog, si Robin Padilla at saka si Bato de la Rosa lang. At least si Bato ay nagtatagalog, ano? Diba? Naku, nakapakahirap eh.
$125 million. That's the first tranche, and the second tranche that would be 700 million. And then we also have the PSERP. That's another project. So we actually have three projects. The funding special audit. So the special audit.
Those procured through Bayanihan 2? What about those procured through GAA 2021 and the other sources locally?
Local.
Was that likewise part of the audit, or
Yes, sir. Part of the regular audit conducted by our resident auditors. February 2023.
Ano to? Ulit? Naputol ah.
Yes, sir.
Balik ako nga.
the audit, or
Yes, sir. Part of the regular audit conducted by our resident auditors.
Year? Ang pangit ang signal nila. Oh, putol oh.
We have committed to submit the report by first week of February 2023.
here?
Yes, sir. But I'd like to mention again that our latest communication dated December 6 asking for the documents that are not redacted, and we still do not have these documents.
Well,
No.
so
Yes, sir.
nandito naman ang DOH Secretary.
We have 2021. In order for us to get those waivers, we need to responded to us during that time that we can disclose, but
Can you repeat that?
Gusto ko balikan konti yung sinabi niya na you can disclose. Pinabalik niya eh. So balikan din natin.
with different manufacturers as early as October of 2021 in order for us to get their permission for us to disclose information to the Senate and also to COA. Because in general, among all of these agreements that we've had with manufacturers, there is this similar clause wherein if we need to disclose because of auditing or because of legal procedures, we need to inform them and get their permission. So far, when we have communicated to them last 2021, only Pfizer, Sinovac, and AstraZeneca responded to us. Pfizer responded to us during that time that we can disclose, but
Can you repeat that? You can disclose. Can.
Mr. Honorable Chair, Pfizer responded to us specifically stating that we can disclose, but
Okay.
COA has to uphold also the confidentiality agreement. And during that time, in December of last year, COA responded
Kaya may, no, minsan masakit sa ulo, may confidential agreement sila. Ano yun? Anong agreement nila? O, halimbawa siguro kung matigi yung tao niya, wala kami pananagutan, ganun siguro ang agreement. Kasi kung ma-public yung agreement na yan, baka ayaw ng tao. No? Makapagtaka ka, bakit may mga ganun, no? Gusto mong tumulong sa taong bayan, pero may mga secret agreement kayo. May mga confidential agreement kayo na bawal makita. Ano yun? Parang, hindi mo maintindihan eh. Parang, bagay, gamot kasi. Bawal talaga i-disclose yan kasi, alam niyo, gamot, hindi naman 50-50 yan eh. Maring nakakatulong, eh, maring nakakasama din, di ba? So, let's go. Tuloy natin.
to us when we communicated to them the response of Pfizer that they cannot uphold this agreement because apparently COA stated that they are not covered by this agreement, only DOH and the manufacturer. So we were not able to provide them with those documents before. Sinovac responded during that time that they cannot and they are not allowing that we disclose this specific information, especially on pricing, to anybody.
Wow,
And then the
pricing.
third, for AstraZeneca, they were...
Narinig nyo yun? Hindi pwede i-disclose yung pricing, man. Wow. Balik natin dito. So, medyo ginagawa ko na lang itong katatawa itong ating kasi sakit sa ulo talaga. Alam nyo, dahil dito sa nangyari, kaya lumubo. Alam nyo, yung ginastos noon na halos umabot tayo ng 13 trillion. Alam nyo kung kahit 30% lang napunta yun sa bansa natin, halimbawa, napakalaki sana. Lang, napunta nga sa vaccine na yun kasi yung pinopropose kin dahil nga may pandemya nga, yun ang tinitira nila. So, tuloy natin, medyo kahit si Senador Tolentino nag-react doon sa pricing na sinasabi. So, balikan natin.
Because apparently COA stated that they are not covered by this agreement, only DOH and the manufacturer. So we were not able to provide them with those documents before. Sinovac responded during that time that they cannot and they are not allowing that we disclose this specific information, especially on pricing.
So, tingnan nyo, Sinovac ay ayaw ipakita yung pricing namin. Wag. Kasi pag ipakita naman yung pricing makita ng taong bayan yan. Wala kayong i-income dito. Parang ganun eh. Maaari kayo, pwede nyo yan lakihan, no? Sabihin nyo, ganun yung price, no? Yung, para may kita. Si Magellan, parang ganun. Ay, nako, bistado.
To anybody. And then the third, for AstraZeneca, they were...
So pricing cannot be disclosed
Yes.
by Sinovac.
Yes.
So in effect, they're saying that pricing is part of the trade secret.
Tama.
Yes, Honorable Chair, that is what they have stated when they responded to us. And then AstraZeneca, Honorable Chair, responded to us that we can disclose information, but we need to just be discreet in the disclosure of this information as well as the recipients of this information. So we again repeated...
AstraZeneca, for the information of the resource persons present here, even have their manufacturing and supply agreements, advanced purchase agreements, and all the terms published in their website for Colombia and the European Commission, as well as for other countries, including the Dominican Republic and Peru. So these are out there. Please proceed. Pfizer is okay, as what you said, Madam Secretary. Pfizer is okay. Sinovac is not willing to disclose. AstraZeneca?
Mr. Honorable Chair, we again wrote to them specifically for this Senate hearing, and Pfizer responded that we can disclose information only through an executive session with the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee.
What about
Yes
what about
po.
Moderna?
Moderna has not responded, Honorable Senator. Even from the last year's communication, they did not respond, and also for this year. Sinovac did not respond to us for this year, but last year, specific sila that they said that we cannot disclose the pricing and the other details of this information on price. And then AstraZeneca then again responded to us now and very much willing to disclose information. So we have already prepared, Honorable Senator, the documents that we will be submitting to the Senate committee, including the AstraZeneca documents that we will be sharing after this meeting, Honorable Senator. So my response, Honorable Senator, to
Sa akin lang, no? Ang dapat, ang napalaisipan talaga dito, sa akin, walang problema kung i-disclose nila, ilagay nila sa confidential. Yung mga chemical na paggawa nila ng, naintindihan ko yan kasi yung mga yan talagang dapat poly confidential yan kasi bawal yan makita ng mga katunggali nila sa kumpanya eh. Hindi ba? Halimbawa, gumagawa si Juan de la Cruz ng kagaya ng mga mang inasal. Yung timpla ni Juan de la Cruz, hindi mo pwede i-disclose doon sa kabilang paninda ni Pedro kasi baka kakapihin. 'Di ba? Parang ganun. So naintindihan natin 'yan. Pero itong ultimo pricing ay i-disclose mo. No? Nako, grabe. Ano 'yun?
to the request of COA would be that the information will be provided through an executive session for the Pfizer. And then for the others, which we are still waiting for the response, if COA would just reiterate their communication officially to us so that we can facilitate the submission already of these documents.
Tapos now, sabihin nila mga kababayan na pwede na i-disclose. Tapos ng laban, sa gitna ng laban, bawal i-disclose. Ano bang, itong mga ginagamit natin. Itong baril, halimbawa, hindi mo alam to kung anong klase ito. Basta gamitin mo lang, gamitin mo. Ibaril mo, iturok mo, ibaril mo. Ibaril mo sa lahat ng kalaban, parang ganun. Pero bawal mo itong bawal mo ipakita. Tapos ng baril, sige, yan, ipapakita, pwede na natin Parang, yung maintindihan eh. Diba? Grabe talaga, medyo, sige, habain natin to.
So you're silent on Moderna, you're silent on Johnson & Johnson, you're silent on Sputnik, you're silent on, what's the other one? Novavax, and the others. So what about vaccines sourced by the private sector? What about vaccines sourced by the LGUs, considering that there was supposed to be a tripartite agreement? Is this part of the confidentiality agreement?
Malamang.
Confidentiality agreement from all the NDAs I have in my possession.
Ayaw nga
refers
ni
to
Galvez
two parties. Now, if you have a tripartite, you now have three parties. So we're venturing into the realm of legalities here. But is this included?
Honorable Senator, if I may request Secretary Galvez to respond to this.
Yeah, kasi si Galvez yung
Secretary.
I believe, Your Honors, Chairman, I believe it is also included in the contract.
Wow. Galing.
Considering that is almost similar to the original contract. That we have a tripartite agreement with the private sector.
Itong technical ng Senado, medyo magulo sigurong kamay nito eh. Nasisira yung quality ng audio eh. Tingnan mo boses naman ni Galvez wasak na naman
So, bottom line
Ba yan?
is this now. COA should request for the other manufacturing supply agreement. Not just for Pfizer, but for the others, for the other suppliers. And this should include not just those sourced.
Your Honor, sir,
reins here from what we are now dealing with is the non-disclosure agreement. What COA is asking is the complete version, unedited, correct?
Tama. Unedited.
Perhaps
Good.
the Department of Health can assuage public concern and help public interest,
Tama.
even by not providing us, this committee, at this juncture, the entire agreement, but the NDA provision.
Mhm.
The NDA provision. The NDA provision is a section of that agreement. So you can perhaps provide us Pfizer, Section 12. The signatories to this agreement will not, blah, 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 and this non-disclosure agreement will have an expiration date of blah, blah, blah. Because from my little knowledge of contract law, an NDA has an expiration date. It is not only. It has a date. Once it is consummated, the contract, once we have paid, it is already completed. There is no prohibition that would prevent you from disclosing the NDA provision. The NDA is not the entire agreement. So will you let this committee have that NDA section? Because we cannot, I believe you consulted with your legal team, but we cannot be apprised properly, pardon the term, if what you're saying is correct, unless we have that provision. Ano yung nakalagay doon sa NDA? Ano yung NDA mismo? Give us that NDA from Pfizer, Sinovac, AstraZeneca, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and even Sputnik, Gamaleya. Ano yung nakalagay doon? I'm very sure that they're not the same. I am very sure that there is an expiration date.
Tama.
I am very sure that we cannot be totally prevented from having access to that. The provision on NDA is not the entire agreement. Is the Solicitor General here present? Yes. Do you agree with me, ma'am? Have you
Yes.
seen an NDA?
Well, yes, we agree that an NDAs generally have time periods for their effectivity. Yes, Your Honorable Chairman.
Usually, based on your experience, how long is the longevity of the NDA?
Well, most of the NDAs I've encountered, I'm speaking for personal experience and not as a lawyer of the OSG, is for terms of employment. It's usually about mga 10 years po,
Wow.
Honorable Chairman. However, again,
Employment is because you do not have to reveal the management and trade practices of your former employer to your new employer.
yes,
Right?
yes, Honorable Chair.
But based on your experience for these types of ventures, how long will it last?
Unfortunately, Honorable Chair, I haven't encountered a similar contract involving these kinds of
Who drafted this agreement in behalf of the OH?
Oh, it was not the OSG, Your Honor.
It is not the Office of the Solicitor General. Is it the Department of Justice? Who drafted this? The manufacturer. Who drafted this? Hindi na na-review ng OSG, Department of Justice, even the Office of the Government Corporate Counsel. Sino po ang who drafted this?
Mr. Chair, I was not the one who drafted it. Actually, it was the manufacturers who drafted it. So, but the legal review was done in consonance with RA 11525. Now,
What do you mean legal review done? Who is the legal team
so
here?
basically there's a task force on procurement
Nako,
and
ito na.
finance. Under
Ito na, magkabistuhan na dito mga kabayan. Ito yung mga tema na bakbak dito na mahuhuli talaga sa bitag itong mga ito. So, lumilinaw.
the ambit of the national
USEC
Hoven.
task force who conducted the review, it was not vetted by the government's legal team, the legal counsel, supposed to be the Office of the Solicitor General. So after being reviewed by the task force, it's a go. Ganun ba?
Mr. Chair, I don't think that we are required to proceed with a review by the Office of the Solicitor General for this particular
Prudence,
contract.
Senator Estrada.
Why did you allow the manufacturers to draft this agreement? This might be one-sided in favor of the manufacturers.
Tama. Tama.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, actually, all contracts, all vaccine contracts will, of course, have to originate from the manufacturers. Not
Excuse
only
me, can
for
you
the
repeat your
Philippines.
answer, please?
Mr. Chair,
Can you repeat your answer?
all vaccine contracts signed by all countries in the world originate from the manufacturers of the vaccines.
After which, who will
After
review
which,
this? Department
there-
of Justice? The Solgen? The Department of Health?
Actually, there would be a negotiation of the contract under the ambit of Republic Act 11525. And this is done by a particular task group, which is called the Task Group on Procurement and Finance. So I was a member of the task group.
Okay, who gives the go signal
But to
para ma-consummate yung contract, yung
Actually-
agreement?
in accordance with the law, it's the Secretary of Health and the
Hmm.
head of the National Task Force on Vaccination who will have to sign on
So the-
behalf of the government.
So the DOH also reviewed this particular
yes,
agreement.
yes, Your Honor.
Kaya.
Who else aside from the DOH?
And the
The
head
Department
of
of Finance?
Yes, and the head of the
Ano?
Mr. Chair and the head of
Fin-
the National Task Force.
Pali,
Thank you.
Attorney, can you tilt? Yes, Attorney Elvira Castro, Office of the Solicitor General, State Solicitor 3. You're on the road. You're a lawyer. You have a laptop in front of you. Can you educate us, this committee, from your knowledge, and use your laptop? What is the definition of I'll give you 1 minute to utilize whatever Google you have there. What is your definition of a contract of adhesion? What is your definition of a contract of adhesion?
Well, Honorable,
Utilize your laptop. If you can cite some jurisprudence, do it. And educate us. Speak in behalf of the
okay.
Solicitor General. Students listening right now.
Under the case of Norton Resources and Development Corporation versus All Asia Corporation, is defined as one in which one of the parties imposes a ready-made form of contract.
Entered into by our side, the government side, with various manufacturers, Pfizer, Moderna, to name a few, as a contract of adhesion. From what you heard.
Well, I'm not.
From the questioning coming from Senator Estrada.
If I will be clarified, there was no modification made by
The
and
committee will allow you to ask directly Yusek Hoven.
and
wala na signal itong Senado.
Provided with his own microphone.
Mr. Chair, actually, the contracts were negotiated on. What I was saying earlier was that the
Hugas kamay dong, no? Hugas kamay.
base contract, meaning before you negotiate, of course, there will be a first draft of a contract. The base contract would come from the manufacturer, and the base contract would have a standard clause on confidentiality, as you know. So, thank you.
Toljen?
based on their answers, sir, it appears that a negotiation occurred. So maybe modifications were made, and in that case, it cannot be probably defined as a contract of
But
adhesion.
the NDA clause, is it negotiable? Can it be changed? Can it be modified? If it is for employers, it is 10 years, can it be modified to a year or 2 years after the consummation or full payment of the vaccines? Is that a standard clause? Accept or not accept, but you can modify the others? Who can answer? Ayusek Hoven.
Mr. Chair, actually, it depends on which confidential information we're talking about.
if we're
I now ask directly, how many provisions of the contract were modified coming from your own proposals to
Nako.
benefit the Filipino people?
Ayan. Benefit from my pa.
primarily on the issue of price,
Down payment,
down payment, no down payment,
Full
price.
payment.
Basically,
delivery,
and delivery, ensured delivery.
expiration dates? You
That-
deliver us a vaccine that would expire after a year, or you can deliver a vaccine that would expire after 3 months? Part of
yeah.
the negotiations?
Actually, there is a protocol on how long before a vaccine expires. There's a standard by which that has to be delivered. But Mr. Chair, just to put things in the proper context, at that particular point, all vaccines had an expiry date of 6 months, because at that point, no manufacturer understood how long the vaccine will last. Thank you.
What about the non-disclosure agreement? Can that be negotiated? Can that be amended? Can that be changed? The
Actually,
expiration date of the NDA, not just the vaccine.
Yan na.
Mr. Chair, actually, if we're talking about formulation, as you know, a contract, of course, has the technical specifications of the formulation, right? So if you're talking about the formulation, although we try to negotiate, ultimately, we will have to weigh it against the interest of the manufacturer. So if you're talking about the recipe, for example,
Hindi yan. Recipe, wala yan. Hindi na kailangan yan. Intindihan niya ni Senador Tolentino kasi yung recipe, talagang non-disclosure talaga yan.
for a Jollibee Chicken Joy, and it's
Kita mo, ginamit niya na yung sample ko kanina. Talagang pagka recipe talaga, hindi mo pwede i-disclose yan. Ang tinatanong sana dyan, yung ano ba talaga yung disclosure? Price. Number 1, yung price. So,
subject to a particular contract, and there's a confidentiality provision, for example. I doubt if Jollibee will agree to a lapsing of a confidentiality provision on the Chicken Joy recipe. Thank you.
Harry Dominguez is raising his hand. We recognize you, sir.
Honorable Senators, plague were in stock. And in fact, to be honest with everybody, this was a seller's market, not a buyer's market. But let us point out, let me emphasize what Charlie said earlier. There were vaccine manufacturers.
Charlie is, for the benefit of those listening,
Is
Charlie
Galvez.
is Charlie Galvez, not Charlie Duque. Not Charlie...
Were manufacturers we did not sign with because they did not agree to the terms we wanted. So, process. Those who behind the 8 ball here,
siyempre, paano naman sila mag-agree na, nako,
we had deaths happening every day. We were not fully prepared. No one in the world was fully prepared for this. So we did our... It was you sign the NDA agreement or you don't have a...
itong sinasabi ni, ano ba to, Dominguez ba ito, ay parang nangyari dito mga kababayan, no? Isasawan ko lang ito. Kasi ito yung nakikita kong punto. Parang, ano ba yung tawag? Parang kinokonsensya niya yung Senador Tolentino na kaya hindi kasi ang lumalabas dito parang walang kapangyarihan yung gobyerno ang gumawa ng kasunduan, hindi yung gobyerno natin kundi yung mismo yung manufacturer ng vaccine. So ito yung gustong timplahin ni Galvez na sinabi niya may araw-araw may patay kahit ngayon di ba? So let's skip tayo diyan.
Who among the manufacturers?
Ay, balikan ko ulit.
Time. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Senator Estrada is recognized.
sino po dun sa mga manufacturers na binanggit ninyo ang tinanggihan ninyo? Who among the manufacturers?
Wala.
Secretary Valdez says, Secretary Galvez has the more information, but I know one was AstraZeneca. The national government did not buy AstraZeneca vaccines. In fact, I had a very sharp conversation with the ambassador.
Gobyerno hindi bumili ng, ibang klase
AstraZeneca was being very, very difficult. Thank you.
Secretary, what do you mean by being very, very difficult?
Any of the requirements we wanted. So we said we won't sign with them. That's what I remember. But
Can you enlighten us further?
Sir, actually, sir, all manufacturers nahirapan po talaga kaming mag-negotiate because there are terms na talagang for us when we convey with the President before.
Siyempre, alam talaga mahirapan talaga ko yan. Kung ang gusto mo yung masunod, hindi sila dyan kasi ang vaccine na ginawa nila ay parang wala pang face. Mukha lang gurong nilagay nila doon. Di ba? Sino ba namang sasign sa kontrata? Halimbawa, ako na mangyari sa amin, kayong mananagot. Kasi alam namin, yung vaccine nyo, ay halos siyang buwan pa lang ito ginawa. So, sino mas papayag yung manufacturer dyan? Simple. Di ba? Normal, tinamang ginawa nilang vaccine ang bibilis. Ilang buwan lang may vaccine ituturok na sa taong bayan. Ano? Sasabihin mo, itong vaccine nyo, ano ba tong chemical nito? Sasabihin, itong chemical, ginawa namin, ito, ihi sa butiki ito. Di ba? Simple. Kaya, hindi talaga papayag ang manufacturer ng vaccine na talaga, hindi pumabor sa kanila.
It's even ask the Senate to pass a law, which is mayroon also yung Novavax.
What are the terms that they were demanding that you didn't want?
Ayun,
I
good.
believe po sir yung sa liability at saka sa disclosure po. Sa disclosure.
The liability,
Yes, sir. And liability, indemnity, and also the disclosure.
all of the three manufacturers, Secretary.
Yes, Your Honor.
Johnson Johnson, AstraZeneca, and the other one?
Novavax po.
Novavax.
Yung
Novavax.
Novavax, yung sa Serum Institute.
Alright.
Okay, mahaba na tayo. Oh my gosh.
As I have said
1
in
hour.
my opening statement, we will not deal with the rationale. We recognize the concern raised by Secretary Dominguez that was a seller's market. There was a need. That this was a first time. There is no precedent insofar as the acquisition of these vaccines, but we will probably dwell more on the wastage, the 57 or 44. But before dealing with that, I promise you this will be a short hearing because Christmas is approaching. May we ask from whoever can answer and even the Solgen, prior to signing an agreement, there are advance purchase agreements, preliminary agreements, or even a binding term sheet. You spell sheet S-H-E-E-T. So these are preliminaries before you sign the final
Loko ni spell niyo pa ka lang shit.
agreement. Is COA interested in that? The binding sheet is usually given by Pfizer. So you negotiate first, and then you have a binding sheet agreement, and then you have the full agreement. May we ask if COA is interested in that? If the negotiator was able to negotiate the terms of the advance purchase agreement, make this more concrete. Because I have here a copy of a sample binding term sheet. They call it pliego de condiciones acceding to a binding term sheet.
100-page document, 200-page document called the contract, the supply agreement. But as Mr. Chair, as you very well know, basically the operative document here is the supply contract. It's not the term sheet. Because once the supply contract is entered into, then the term sheet would lose any efficacy or any relevance. Thank you.
Follow-up question. Who signed the term sheet? in behalf of the Department of Health or the government?
So actually,
Who was the
for
signatory?
so Mr. Chair,
Wala na sumagot. Basta pirmahan, wala na sumagot.
Mr. Chair, so for those with term sheets, with because as you know, not all, as I said earlier, not all manufacturers.
Tama. Nililigaw niya. Ang linaw-linaw na ng tanong, sinong pumirma ng term sheet? Pero, ano na lang makikita mo talaga.
Will need a binding term sheet before you move on to the contract. Some manufacturers would.
Parang gaano na si Dominguez. Gusto nang mag-transform.
Honorable Chair, Honorable Senator, currently we have of 44 million. Just
44
44 million doses,
Doses.
Honorable
amounting
Senator.
to
Amounting to, because if we look at the
Hindi niya sasabihin talagang presyo dyan. Kasi pag amounting to, pag i-search niya yung presyo talaga dun sa manufacturer, baka wala na kaming pangmerienda.
totality of these doses that were wasted.
Kita mo, nililigaw, no? Nagtanong lang, amounting to, pumunta na. Tingnan natin. So, hindi natin na unahan. Baka mamaya gina-judge natin itong si Bergere. Titingnan natin kung sasabihin niya ba talaga ditong amount.
Only those coming from the government procurement can we compute.
yes.
So if we compute for that, the wastage coming from government procurement would just total to around 2.7 million doses. Million doses.
Doses.
2.7 million doses, which is equivalent to around 1.3 billion, estimated at 500 pesos per dose, Honorable Senator.
Yun ang nasayang sa pera ng gobyerno.
Ang laki.
So why is this so? Bakit napakarami nating nasayang na bakuna, Secretary?
Yan, good question.
Honorable Chair and Honorable Senator, first would be if we look at the trends of vaccinations right now, the demand really has declined tremendously. If we were vaccinating around 3 to 4 million per day in the previous months in 2021 until December of 2021, starting January of 2022, the demand for the vaccines declined.
Bakit?
How many percent, Madam?
Now, Mr. Honorable Senator, we are just averaging a total of just 18,000 to 20,000 vaccinations per day, or doses that we give.
As we speak?
As we speak, Mr. Honorable Senator, compared to in the previous months, especially in 2021, where we were averaging millions of doses being provided per day.
Okay. The pandemic started in the year 2020. When did we start to procure the vaccines? 2021?
Honorable Senator, we started our negotiations way back in early 2020, around October. If I may ask Secretary
Yes.
Galvez to respond to
Well,
the question,
please,
Honorable
please.
Senator.
Mr. Chair, Honorable, Your Honors, we started our negotiation as early as October, Your Honors.
2020.
2020.
Negotiations with whom?
We have the vaccine expert panel recommended seven
Manufacturers, namely
namely, we have
Sinovac,
Sinovac,
Sinopharm, KJ, Moderna.
before we
Alright.
have also Bara. We were able to the Sinovac, and then these two vaccines are the only available vaccines during those time, because most of the vaccines, Moderna and Pfizer, has been taken by Western countries. And then if you look at the trend of our vaccination program, we pick up our vaccination in August 2021, wherein we were able to inoculate 13 million. And then later, we really
Skip ko na dyan mga kababayan para matapos na tayo. Ito si Galvez, kumakain na.
The LGUs and the private sector procured 24.42.
Skip ko na si Galvez. Medyo si Galvez nakikita natin, medyo na high blood na yan dyan mga kababayan. So skip na tayo para mabala.
Already were able to fully vaccinate 70.9 million.
70.9. First dose, second dose?
73.7 million.
Se-
This is fully vaccinated, Honorable Senator. These are 2 doses.
2 doses. What about yung mga booster shots? Do you have any
For the
records?
for the first booster shots, Honorable Senator, it's 21.047 doses that were administered or
So-
recipients for this.
No, sa what was the first figure that you mentioned? 73
Yes, it's
million
73.7 million.
Filipinos have
Yes.
been vaccinated.
Yeah.
2 doses.
Yes po.
Okay, yung booster, ilan? 20?
It's 21 million and 47.
So yung 50 million Filipinos hindi pa nagpapabooster. Am I right?
But this 73.7 million will include also the 5 to 11 years old, who are not yet eligible for the booster
Oh, yes,
shots.
okay. So how many amongst the 73 million are eligible for booster?
Around 40 million individuals who are still doesn't have their first booster shot. Because it is already
Booster shots. Am I correct? Kasi
Ah.
hinahanapan eh. Shot. Booster.
ready plus the first 2 doses. So these were the common answers by our citizens when we did our survey, Honorable Senator.
But if you travel abroad, they require you to have a booster shots. Am I correct? Kasi hinahanapan eh.
Not all countries are requiring have this kind of requirement, Honorable Senator. Most of the countries would only require the first 2 doses.
Okay. Thank you, Secretary.
Clear. No buster.
If I'm wrong, this is data. And I have here in my possession the latest statement coming from the World Health Organization as to the rationale. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is dated 18 August 2022. The rationale for a second booster. I've heard reports coming from the private sector that some employers, even employees, would want to have a second booster. Why is it that the DOH is apparently silent on this? Because those who had their first booster shots are willing, not all, to have a second booster. Let me quote the World Health Organization. This is their latest statement. The rationale, there is a WHO roadmap and I quote, I'm not a doctor, nor pretending to be one. Rationale for a second booster. In the context of the Omicron variant, the waning of the VE was documented as relatively minor against severe and rapid symptom. VE probably is the vaccine over time, since this is data, would require the need for would make the second booster dose increase the VE against all outcomes initially. And if I may continue, the rationale for a second booster is to restore and possibly enhance protection, etc., etc. Bakit po hindi tayo magpa-second booster? Para yung nasasayang ay hindi talaga masayang, kasi yung nagpabakuna na nagpa-first booster, palagay ko yung iba doon gusto magka-second booster. Yun ang hinihingi ng private sector noon, payagan na silang magpa-second booster para hindi mag-expire yung iba magamit. Ako po, ewan ko si Senator Estrada, payag po ako magka-second booster. Kasi kung humihina na yung first booster ko, willing pong magpa-second booster, lalong-lalo na yung lumalabas ngayong simbang gabi.
Skip ko na dito mga kababayan. Alam ko mga kababayan, napakaraming ayaw magpo-booster. Reaction ni Bergeri muna ang tingnan natin.
Evidence, we can then again recommend because the regulatory process would be that if we will be expanding this to the rest of the population, we again need to go through FDA to amend the EUA and also go through HTAC. And they require additional evidence so that they can be able to amend the EUA or HTAC to give additional recommendations. And that we still do not have and the manufacturers have not submitted yet. So yun po yung ating parang challenge siya ngayon. But rest assured that the Department of Health is continuously dialoguing with our experts so that we can have this further review for the second booster shots for the rest of the population.
How long will that review last? When will it be ended? Because other countries are now having the second booster. Plus, additional question, ma'am, the shots, the jobs for 5 to 11, they're okay now. Di po ba? Recent CDC issuances, US jurisdiction,
Skip.
That this
Skip ko na yan mga kababayan para matapos na tayo.
part of the
Hanapin ko nitong magandang topic nyo. Kasi alam naman natin, mga ganong bagay. Ang topic nila, tusok eh. Alam mo mga kababayan, yung Pilipino, napakaraming Pilipino, sapat na sa second booster. Gaya, parang ako. Ayoko ano eh.
Sinovac and even Sputnik when you travel abroad.
Yes, Honorable Senator, but some of
First time concerning the 44 million wasted vaccines. Reasons given by Secretary Dominguez are noted and in compliance with the requirements. Public will be enlightened that DOH as well as the pre
Yan mga kababayan, kasi yon ang last mention ni, yun ang pinaka ni Senadora Tolentino. So hanggang dyan mga kababayan, no, medyo mahaba-haba ito, umabot ng 1 hour and 16 minutes yung ating, pasensya na, makarating naman tong part ng video na ito, pasensya na, sa habang nagdidinig ay medyo chapi-chapi nga, ika nga kasi wala ding signal at siniskip ko rin yung video dahil kung hindi, baka abutin tayo ng 3 taon, hindi pa tayo natapos dito. So, maraming salamat at good night. Ingat kayo palagi. Sana, matumbok ang gusto nilang matumbok dito. Kasi, alam ko, medyo, hindi ko lang alam kung may kumita ba talaga dito sa vaccine na ito. O, wala. Mayroon ba talagang nangumisyon dito o nakumsimisyon sa vaccine na ito? Let's go. Maraming salamat.